Welcome to GritMeetsGrowth. Today we are joined by Haley Atchley. She's a co-owner of Window Depot in Nashville. Alongside, like she started this alongside her husband, and she has been doing that for 10 plus years. Customer satisfaction is a priority. They provide quality products at a fair price. They specialize in replacement windows and doors, but offer a wide span of anything exterior to make it easy. We're really excited to hear her story. So thanks a lot for doing this, Haley, and welcome once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. Cool. Then I'll just get started with the set of questions that I have. Obviously, we can take it from there.
Okay.
Sure. Perfect. Cool. So the first sort of thing, right, that this is a general question that we ask anyone that starts or we have a podcast on is how did you choose this niche or the category of the business when you were deciding the type of business that you wanted to do? How did you end up with this one?
So we actually did not choose this business. It kind of chose us. My husband's mom actually owned this business prior to us, and she was actually diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 50. And I was teaching high school at the time, and my husband was an automotive engineer. And she basically requested that through her sickness, we help her with the business, which we were like, okay, you'll do anything for your family, basically. So he quit his job, and I started learning like her role, and he went kind of out in the field and started doing the sales with his stepdad for like windows, doors, exterior products. And we just thought, we were kind of helping them in the interim, like while she was doing chemo and getting her treatments, because obviously that takes a lot of time. And ended up she actually went the opposite way, and she just got worse. And she ended up passing away within the year of her asking us to help them. And at
Sorry
that
about that.
yeah, she willed her half of the business to my husband, which is obviously her son. And his stepdad just wasn't in he wasn't able to like continue at that point. That's a hard loss. And you definitely need time to heal, and we needed time to heal too, but we also knew how much the business meant to her, and we didn't want to let it just fully go. So we decided we were going to pick it up and just run with it, and that's that's what we did. So that's basically how we got here. We are very blessed with it now, but starting a business is no joke. Like it is, there's so many different working parts and pieces, and you have to have so many things in order for it to be successful. So it was definitely a hard journey, but we're to the point now where we know what we're doing, and we love it. Like, we love working for ourselves and owning our own company, and also providing service at a level that we can control, not just working for somebody in a corporate office.
So true. And now you have been doing this for 10 plus years. So that's obviously something that you obviously would enjoy because doing something for 10 years is obviously not a joke.
Yeah.
So I can understand how that story started, but at the end of the day, like the business is something that basically chooses you, but now obviously you're loving it. So that's
Yeah.
the best part of it.
Hmm.
No, that's great, right? Right. Like obviously, like everyone has their own journey. I have talked to more than 15 people in the podcast. Obviously, I've talked to a lot more, but especially in the podcast,
Yeah.
when you talk about these sort of things, and you realize that okay, um, it's not everything is not really planned. Like obviously you as a
Yeah.
human being we like to plan everything, but then things
Mhm.
unfold in the ways that we can't even imagine, and then we have to make the most out of it. So that's the part of it.
Definitely. And when you're in the thick of it, you don't really realize like how much it's building your character and your personality. But once you get through it, it teaches you a lot. It really
Yeah.
does.
So, amazing. Right. Like since we obviously I know that how that was a big sort of a thing of getting started, but it's been more than 10 years. So can you talk us through about some of the challenges, like maybe the top two challenges that you would have faced and how you basically overcame them?
Sure. The first one was technology. We When we inherited this business, it was all paper based. And so like we had to basically make sure that everybody who was part of the business all came to a central point and all of their papers made it to one place. There was not a way to communicate digitally, and that was a complete pain in the butt, along with, accountability was really hard to hold because things get lost when you only have one physical copy of stuff. And so we made the transition from paper contracts to like digital contracts, and then just invoicing. We were only doing paper invoices for a while, like where we print them out and we required check or cash. Like we weren't even taking cards when we first took over. And so we integrated like a digital invoicing software, and like we were just piecing it together as we went along. But now we're to the point where we have an all-in-one CRM. So like if you're a business and you're new, you need to find a software that fits your business, that is going to put everything in one central location. Otherwise it's going to be a pain. That was one of the biggest challenges we had, and it took so much manpower and time to get everything together to where it was understandable, that it didn't make sense. Like how much time we were spending on it, there was no return there, none. Like it was just exhausting manual input work. And so that was our biggest challenge, and that is one of the biggest things when I talk to new business owners now, that I get to share with them. Like, hey, make sure that this is one of your top priorities. It doesn't matter what you're doing. There is a software out there that's going to make your life easier, and don't be scared of it. Learn how to use it, and in the long run, it will benefit you greatly. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was just like, I guess, company morale and like establishing what culture you want to have within your company. We were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants at first. We didn't know how to be leaders. Really rooting yourself in the fact that you are a boss now and figuring out how to be that boss effectively is also very important. You want to be everybody's friend, but in order for your business to be successful and to grow, you have to draw a line and like have benchmarks, have goals, have metrics that you're tracking. Otherwise, you're not going to know where you are. And so learning how to be that boss and to find the things that a boss should be doing, not just like making sure that the business is staying afloat, was another challenge for me and my husband. And that's something, again, that software also played into a part of that because it allowed us to track more than we were realizing we needed to track. And so, now every week, even with our sales team, we go over like their close rates for the running 30 days. And if they're not meeting like a benchmark, they go into like a retraining program where they're kind of put on probation, and we're like, hey, don't forget your basics, like just doing small things like that, like learning how to be the person who is identifying the strengths and the weaknesses and not just making sure that your business is still going. Like you need to have that authority, and you also need to have evidence and data that backs it up so that when you do approach somebody, they don't just get defensive and it blow up in your face. So those are the top two things that were challenges, and now the top two things that we love about our business. Like we figured out how to overcome them, and now we're proud of those things. We're proud of the meetings that we have, and like the statistics and the metrics that we track. And then we're really excited that we learned how to utilize technology and software to leverage our time.
Basically, you turn your challenges into something that you're really proud of. That's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
great sort
And
of a win, right?
it's those two things are one of the funnest parts of the business now, is like utilizing that technology to see all this information that we didn't even know was there before. And then also being able to go to our people and say, hey, look, like you were doing this great this 30 days ago, and now this has happened. Let's figure out what the issue is so that not only you can be successful, but our business can continue to grow.
That's amazing. And like you really touched upon really important pointers, right? Like one, obviously embracing technology, especially with the type of business that you are into, right? Like a lot of people don't really know, like the one things don't really know how to use it. Like again, right, I am not trying to diminish anyone, but that like that's the nature of that business, right? Like a lot of e-commerce business is it's like everything is digital, so they have to incorporate that. But a lot of hands-on businesses are not typically built that way, and like as you
Right.
mentioned, that's something that was running by your like mother or mother-in-law. But then again, right, like that's a very old sort of a way of doing things, and then obviously
Yeah.
um, bring that into a new system, having CRMs or having automatic flows,
Hmm.
it's essential, especially in the time of era that we are in, right? Like, and especially when it comes to bookings, like obviously there are lots of things, but especially let's say bookings, right? Like if you forget one, you're just basically essentially missing out on a big sort of a chunk of revenue, and
Right.
then it can just disrupt a lot of things because that can
Hmm.
become problem for a lot of other things as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
It really being, and it's scary at first when you're used to one thing and then you look at another and you're like, that's completely new. I don't know how to use any of that. Like it is scary, but it is so like it's so worth it. And that's something that I've been through it, so that's why I'm so passionate about expressing it to people. Like we were terrified. We were like, I don't know what all this stuff is or how to do these automations or it's a technology that encompasses all kinds of things. Um Contracts, meetings, like everything is in there. And but you have to be willing to move with the times or your business is going to get stuck back here and everybody else is going to go this way. So,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's so true, and then obviously making them into your wins is another sort of a feat in itself. So that's
mhm.
like
Yeah,
kudos to you for that.
thank you.
Sure. Cool, right? Like we talked about how you started the business, we talked about the challenges. But then like just to be clear, like do you have multiple locations, right, for your business?
We do. It's not like multiple locations around the country, but we're in Tennessee, and we span from the northern border of Tennessee to the southern border of Tennessee, and I don't know how many miles it is, but we service all of Middle Tennessee from the top to the bottom, and then we go as far west as um like Fairview, Bon Aqua area. I know that's like not super well known, but that's like as far what Kingston Springs, I think, is another one. And
Okay.
then we go all the way into the upper Cumberland. So we actually span into East Tennessee a little bit. We have a location in Cookeville. Crossville is actually where we warehouse most of our stuff currently. And then we have our Nashville base. We also have satellite offices in Shelbyville, and we're working on two more. So we're really trying to get our name out there. We are our brand as Window Depot as a whole is actually the third largest remodeling company in the nation. There are 92 of us stationed all over the country, but we're all individually owned and operated. So Window Depot is it's a bigger name, but it's really still not known like some of the other window companies are. So we're trying to grow that here. That's our main focus right now is just brand recognition. And when people say, "Oh, hey, I need windows," they don't think of some of the more expensive brands or Lowe's. They think of Window Depot.
That's amazing. Like I worked with a ton of local businesses. I haven't really worked with windows, but I've worked with roofing, fencing. So
Hmm.
like a lot of them are like franchisee businesses. So I can understand what you're trying to say, like in terms of the locations, and then
Yeah.
uh, most of the ones that we work with are like franchisees. So they like let's say Bumble Roofing, for instance. So that's a company that has franchisees across the US. So
Hmm.
they operate more than like 15, 20 locations. And there is another one which is for fencing, which is called Superior Fence. They have more than 100 locations in the US. So they are typically very different. But then again, right, I can understand that how the play of every location sort of comes in, and then like managing each location is like a business in itself. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's essentially what it is. So yeah, that's amazing. Cool. So since we talked about that as well, right? Like, can you? So again, right, to just to give you some more context, the idea of doing this podcast series is to educate people that are looking to start their own business, so that when they're starting something off, they can learn from people that have already built something. So, in terms of your business, right? What are the different channels that help you bring in new business, so that anyone who's looking to start, he knows that these are the areas that they need to focus on.
So new, like You mean like bringing in new customers, like on the daily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we feel like there are probably three big things that we experience in our business anyway that are key. Number one is obviously online marketing. We are our brand, Window Depot as a whole, we have our own in-house marketing team that we can employ from corporate. Now they don't have necessarily like our corporate is they're there to help us, but they're not there to like micromanage us. But we do have an in-house marketing team. So they take care of all of like our SEO, our websites, things like that. So just like your digital presence is huge, especially in the services industry. Because when someone needs something, what are they going to do?
Yes,
They're
such
going to
one.
go Google it. Where can I get X, Y, and Z? Or window replacements near me, things like that. That's
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So you need to make sure that you have something in order for that. You don't want
Yeah.
to be missing all of those people who are filling those things out, and you're not popping up, and there are lots of, I think, are you in the digital marketing world
Yeah.
yourself?
That's
Okay,
what we
yeah,
do.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. And so like if someone does not know what they're doing, they can come to you and be like, okay, these are my keywords. This is what I'm looking for. These are the areas I want to target. Do this for me. And like
Yes.
people like you know how to do that. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that you have to have. The second thing that we think you have to have is community presence. So you can't just be like a name on a billboard or a name in Google. People need to see you in the real world too. So we're really big on sponsoring like community events, charitable giving in our church. So people who are in out in the community, they'll see like our tent set up at like some of the 5Ks that we sponsor. Or, for church, we'll go do like a parking lot event. We take our trucks that are wrapped and we can set out in parking lots and help give away food or whatever. Just showing people that we're out there also
Good.
servicing the community, not just hoping that people are going to buy products from us. So be a human, be a real person in your local community and get involved. I feel like that's also huge. And once you do that, people will organically come to you. So you're not going to just rely on that online presence. If people see you out in the community, they're going to start being like, oh, yeah, I saw their truck at this, or I saw their booth at this. So that's another way that you're going to pull people in. And then probably the last thing is just like, make sure that the culture within your business is so good that the people that work for you want to talk about it. Because so many times people who have jobs, they go out into the world and they're like, man, I can't stand work. I don't, I don't want to be there, like, et cetera. Like they complain about their occupation. But if you set yourself up to where the culture within your business is so good that people don't mind working, that's also going to in turn like play out through them, and people are going to realize like, hey, he works there and he still loves them, like we should use
True.
them. So I think those three things are probably the biggest things that you need in order to be successful. And just also understand that I could be wrong, I'm not big on statistics, that's my husband, but I think that this statistic is like in the first 2 years, don't expect to make a lot of money. You have to be devoted to like really investing in your business and growing it before you can see that return. So know that like you have to be in it for the long haul and not just start it for 8 months and you're like, oh, this isn't going well. Like, don't get a negative attitude about it. Find the things that are tripping you up and figure out a way to make them better. Um, and if you need help with that, there are professional like counseling services that will come in and like help you with your business tactics. They will identify this needs work, this needs work, this needs work. And they'll give you some resources, obviously for a cost, on how to improve those things. And if you get to that point, before you give up, I would highly suggest like if you don't know what you're doing, hire someone who does. And then if at that point they're like, yeah, this is a loss, okay, that's fine. But most of the time it's not going to be that way. It's the fact that you're new and you don't know everything and you need help. So
So you really broke that down into a really well sort of a proper process. Like, okay, like digital is one part of it. The second part is obviously like having your certain processes, and then third, which was something that I've never really heard someone say in that sort of a way, which is like having your people talking about the company in a way that if someone is looking for your services, they're like, okay, if people that work with for them really love them, then they can really avail the services, right? Because it's uh, it's something that really makes a lot of sense, right? Because in the age and era that we are at, and with the number of companies that there are, or with how uh, let's say even the bigger brands hire people in a very fast pace, and then also fire them
mhm.
at
Yeah,
the same sort of pace, and then obviously the toxicity in terms of the working environments is increasing. Again, right, I don't have the statistics, but it just feels it's increasing more, because then everyone has their own notions, and they just want people to follow those.
right.
It's really something that people don't really dwell into or look into, and they're like, okay, that's like, that doesn't really matter, but it is, because especially when it comes to services, like one thing that I have always felt is we don't really have a product. Our people are the only sort of a product, right? Like not in any other way, but basically how we will have our team, this is going to define the type of work that we'll do, right?
Hmm.
So therefore we don't really, like, people don't really look at that, but that's essentially the biggest sort of a thing with a service company. Like you can look at any big service company, and then one thing that you will see is the people that they have are the only sort of differentiators. We talk about companies like McKinsey, we talk about the Boston Consulting Group, or all of them, and like the type of talent that they have, or the type of ways maybe they have kept that talent, is a very big sort of a factor for them to do the quality of work that they are able to do. Obviously, right, like they're too big now to even, let's say, compare things, but basically the biggest thing for consultancies or for services is the team or the people that they have.
Yeah,
So if they are able to say good things about you, then definitely the work will also say the same thing.
right. Yeah. And like our guys, like when they're out in the field, we have heard from multiple customers, like we can tell that they enjoy being with this company, and that means something. And then in turn, when they can tell that, if they have a good experience, then they're also more likely to leave a review about their experience, which in turn gives you more like authority online. And so like it really is like a snowball effect. So just focusing on those, like being a number one, authentic, like be yourself, because there's no like one way fits all. Some people are going to be more attracted to one type of person, and some people are going to be attracted to another type of person. And the same thing goes for businesses. Um, some people are more attracted to higher priced items. Some people are more attracted to the DIY side of things. Um, so like find out who you are and where you sit in that world, and then really build off of that and be proud of it. You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. So um just be yourself. That way when your team sees you being yourself, they know that they can be their self, and that makes them more comfortable with whatever they are doing. And then in our case, our guys go into homes, and these customers can tell, like, hey, these guys aren't out here just trying to make a buck. Like, they enjoy working for this company, they know the story of this company, their pricing is great, their quality is awesome. Like, why wouldn't I work with them? And that's kind of what we've built our business on.
That's amazing. And that's the core essence, I guess, at the end of the day. So yeah. Cool. Then like obviously we both are part of BNI, but for the
Yeah.
audience, can you just maybe brief a bit about what BNI is, and then what sort of a role has that played for your business, for both your personal and professional letter systems? Because I think that BNI is not just helping people with getting business, but they're also making them better individuals as well.
Yes. So actually, like my BNI, I see it as more of a personal development thing than me trying to get leads. You're going into a room full of other people who are just like yourself, who are very self-motivated. They're driven. Most of them own their own companies, or they are like 1099, like a subcontractor. They may work under a name, but they're still like working for themselves. So you have all of these like-minded people in one room together once a week. And yes, like we share like, hey, I'm so and so, this is what I do. Send people that you know need my services to me. But the most important part of that meeting every week is the personal development that I get from it when I go as a leader and as a business owner. Um, there's not a day that I don't go into that meeting and hear someone say something or talk about something with someone that I don't leave going, that was very insightful and that can help me in whatever I'm facing this week, this month, a goal this year, etc. So I have really loved BNI. I know that there are some chapters that are completely different. I have visited more than one. So if you're thinking about BNI, I highly do encourage you, find one that you feel like you fit in. Because some of them you're going to go into and you're going to like be like, okay, not really sure, like these are my type of people. And that's fine. That goes back to not everybody is your cup of tea. There are, I don't know how many chapters there are around this country, but there are a ton because I can tell you like in our little area, there's probably more than 60 that I could have chosen from. And I visited at least 3 others. And the one that I chose is where I belong. Like there was a very clear indication of like I love this one. And the other ones, not that they were bad, just my personality type and the type of people who are in the one that I'm in clicked very well together. So, but that also goes back into me saying like your community presence. People want to see your face. They want to know the actual you, not just somebody who's like, hey, I own a window company on Facebook, and then they don't know anything about you. So
True.
BNI just is another layer of that. And for me, I don't go into it. Yes, we get leads from it. I got one from it yesterday. For it's a realtor who's replacing windows in his home. That was referred to me from like our air conditioning AC guy in BNI.
Yeah,
But it's not about the leads, honestly, especially if you're a new business owner. You need to get into one and listen to the people. We have people in ours who have been in this same chapter for 14 years. Like
that's true.
they're so knowledgeable, and it's so worth it. Like I don't look at it as I went into this to try to get more leads to come to me, to try to get people to send me leads. I went into it wanting to learn from the people who have utilized it for years, along with they become your friends too, like, and they understand where you're coming from because like I said, most of them are also business owners. So it is a, a group of very much like-minded people who are going through a lot of the same things, even though you're not in the same industries.
So true. Again, I'd like that's something that even I felt like it's been close to 7 or 8 months itself. Like it's not been a long time for me, but the first time I went into that meeting, I was like, okay, this is something different. This is a completely different sort of a vibe that I'm getting from a networking sort of an event. Like again, right, it's not just a networking event,
Yeah.
but that's what the full fancy is. So again, right, like the type of learnings that you get from people, from the systems that they have. Like one thing that I've really loved about BNI is the system, like the process that they have, the discipline that they have, because I guess that's what really separates BNI from any other such community that there is. So yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Then we're going towards we're moving towards the last segments of the podcast. So the second last question that I have for you is, what is that one, let's say, advice that you would like to give to someone who's looking to start their own business?
Oh my goodness, I kind of feel like I already did. So don't start something that you're not going to commit to. Like if you're just like, oh, this is fun, but you can't see yourself doing it in 3 years, I wouldn't do it. Like building a truly successful business takes time. And you have to have that grit, just like the name of this is. You have to have that grit before you see this exponential growth.
Yeah.
You have to have the drive to be willing to face a ton of adversity and negativity, along with just like regular business related challenges, financial challenges, um, relational challenges, as in like the people that you're hiring and you're working with. Hard conversations. Have you ever had to fire someone? Do you know how that actually works? You have to. We're actually going to Cancun next week to meet up with all the other dealers that are in the nation with us. Not all 92 of them come, but about 50 of us usually go each year, and we sit there and we collaborate and we talk about it. And we say you have to be a servant, but you also have to be a savage. Like, you want to serve anybody who you employ, you want to serve your customers, but also in order to be successful, you have to make hard decisions. You have to be able to withstand the stress and like the adversity that comes with it. So make sure that you're passionate about it before you just dive into something, because you have to give a lot up front. It's
True.
not it's not just like, oh hey, I'm going to start this and I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to make my own hours and stuff. There is so much more to building a successful business than just being like, I have the ability to start it. It's going to go fine. You really have to be willing. Dustin and I talk about it all the time. We're like, we work for ourselves, but we probably work more than we would if we had a normal job. So, like, just make sure you understand what you're getting into first. And make sure that you have a passion for whatever it is you're doing. Um, I can tell you right now, I don't have a passion for windows. I do not. But what I do have a passion for is my family and the legacy that I want my mother-in-law to have. Um, and now that we are through that hard part of building this business and getting it rolling, I am passionate about windows. So as long as you can connect that passion to something that your business is going to provide, that counts. You don't have to specifically be passionate about the certain product that you're marketing or a certain service that you're marketing, but your why behind that product or that service is very important, because you're going to come to many days where you're like, I'm done with this. I want to quit. It's not worth it. But there has to be something there that's going to keep you going. Otherwise, you just wasted all your time. So, in addition to all of the things that I've said about making sure that you have software in place and making sure that you are hiring the right people and that your culture is good and that you're not just throwing people in because you feel like they can make you more money, et cetera, et cetera. Like, make sure that you have the passion and your why in your heart before you set out on this journey. Otherwise, you're going to come to some sort of obstacle that will overtake you if you do not have that foundation. And so I think those are my biggest things. Like, make sure that you know that you can push through whatever obstacles you're going to face, because there is something in your heart that loves whatever this business is about. Again, it doesn't have to be your specific product, but why you want to do it. And then employ all of the right things in the right places from the start. Like, make that investment. Don't don't try to like shortchange starting. Like, you need to find all of the right pieces and invest in them on the forefront. And I promise you, like, it will make your life so much easier.
Thanks a lot for that honest sort of an answer, because
Yeah.
like again, right, like everyone that starts a business, like one thing that I always hear is like, get passionate about what we do. I can understand that a lot of people will, but the way that you portray it or the way you answer that, there is a particular purpose why you're more passionate about, let's say, that particular category. Like, makes a lot more sense, right? Because as you mentioned, for you, like, obviously, as you mentioned, you didn't really choose this, but when you
No.
got it, there was a particular purpose, and then that sort of thing kept you moving, right? Like for me, um, right after my college, I went into performance marketing. I wanted to be in performance. I wanted to be into marketing, but honestly speaking, I didn't even know what performance marketing was
Yeah.
at the time when I went into it, right? And when I did, I was like, oh, this is something that I really enjoy. I worked for that company for close to 2.5 years before I started my own business. So, if I'm going to be like, oh, I always knew that this is something that I loved, that will be just stupid, or like that will be just making a story that sort of sounds cool, but that's not at all the case. Another very big sort of factor that helped me starting this business was COVID, right? Again, not saying that COVID was a good thing, but basically I had some time to introspect. I had some time to look at things, and that's when I
Mhm.
was like, okay, this is the time I can maybe put in some hours and do something of my own.
Yeah.
So again, right, like those factors are not something that you can't really romanticize, or you can just say that, oh, this is something that happened. But then how things really unfold, and then how you grab onto them, really makes the difference. So the biggest thing that I always feel is, like as you mentioned, like we always do say that we work for ourselves, but at the end of the day, we are also working. Like at times, I feel like I'm working twice than what I would have been working if I was working
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
a company, right? And there are times when you're like, oh, no, I need to take a break, or I can't do this.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that sort of a thing really comes in, because there are obviously bad days, there are good days, like all of those sort of things will happen. And if you're just doing it for the good days, this is not really going to be something
Yeah.
that you
It's
that
not
you
for
will love.
you. It will not
Yeah,
work out.
yeah, you'll have more bad days and good ones for
Yep.
sure. But the thing is, you won't really realize when there are good days as well, because you can't really at times even know that there is something that's going to happen. And like, you get a business from someone you expect the least from, and you don't get it from the one that you expect the most from. So
Yep.
those sort of things are bound to happen, and not just business, right, but things that will happen within your team, things that will happen
Yep.
with you. All of that sort of stuff is at times crazy, and the only way that you can sustain it is when you are in it for the long run. So yeah.
Right. 100%.
Cool. Then we're into the last segment of the podcast. So what we do is we basically ask you one question that we got from the last guest, and then we'll also ask you one question that we will have for the next guest. So that's something that we do.
Okay.
So the question that I have from the last guest is, like, what are the steps that that you're taking for your own freedom?
Oh, that is a really good one.
Yeah.
Um, so personally, I have I have tried to dedicate like Mondays. Mondays are not hard for me, like as far they're not heavy. I won't say hard. They're not heavy workload days for me as far as like my role in the business. So like on Monday, I have tried to dedicate Mondays to as little work as possible. I do my grocery shopping on Mondays. So like I've come up with excuses to like get out of the house, out of the home office. Um and so, like, me and I homeschool too, so, like, that kind of helps break up, my work schedule a little bit. But on Monday specifically, like, my husband knows I'm going to the grocery store. I try to wash my car on Mondays, like, just do some life-giving things that make you feel like you're not just focused on your business. So, like, cleaning your car, making sure your house is stocked up with your your normal groceries, whatever you're gonna need for the week. Um, and then also something that I have employed a little bit better, not that I haven't wanted to employ it over a long period of time, but a little bit better, especially over the last 180 days. So, like the last 6 months, I've really been tracking like my Bible reading and my devotional time with Jesus. So, that in itself, like, I feel like no matter what spiritual world or realm you live in, um, so many of us business owners are so quick to wake up, our eyeballs open, we get ready for the day very quickly. We immediately rush to like our email and our computer and like, okay, what do I have to get done today for my business? So just taking that time before I get started with my work has really impacted just like my mindset and how I'm able to handle the day. Um, and like I should have been doing it more, but when you own your own business and you know that there's work to be done, it's very hard to just be like, I'm gonna take a calm 15 minutes and basically, like do the slow things and spend time in prayer and do like my little studies and get whatever word I'm supposed to hear from the Lord that day into my head. But it does make a difference. So like schedule schedule something. Like if you can't dedicate a whole day, dedicate 2 hours to whatever it is. If that's binge watching Netflix, let it be that. If that is what your soul enjoys, just find something that's life giving for you. I'm not good at keeping a clean car, but I love having a clean car. I also have two kids, so that's part of the problem with not being able to keep a clean car. But so like washing my car and like vacuuming it out just gives me a little bit of fresh air. And then I like grocery shopping. I think that might be weird to a lot of people, but I really enjoy like picking out our food for the week and getting home and organizing it all in our pantry and in our fridge and just knowing that like we're good, we're ready to go for the week. Like if we need something really fast, it's going to be there. So like those are some things that I personally do that may resonate with some people, and some people may be like, that is all very weird stuff. So
I don't think so, right? Like honestly, like when you said you love like grocery is one of the things that you do.
yeah.
I was clearly it really showed me that you really love that, because that's the first thing that you mentioned that you do on a Monday. So I was like, okay, this is something that
Yeah.
you really look forward to. But I guess a lot of people do, right? Like even so in India, especially when it comes to groceries or when it comes to delivery, a lot of things are changing with quick commerce, which is basically like now we get food delivered in like 8 to 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes is
Yeah.
when we get our food, right? And now that is just changing things quite a lot. But when there are certain, like obviously I don't do it every Monday, but maybe in a couple of months I definitely try to go to some stores that are full of groceries, and everyone really loves going there. It's just a task to go there, but yeah, they like you really love doing that. So yeah, like I guess it's just about understanding what you really like and then just pursuing that, right? Like
Yeah,
a lot
find
of
something for sure that like that gives
Mhm.
you life, that you're like, okay, that
Yeah,
was a breath of fresh air. And that may that may be literally going outside for 15 minutes to get a breath of fresh
yeah,
air, like
true,
whatever it is, just find it and ground yourself in that and make it a routine. That way, like if on Thursday you're having a really hard day, you're like, okay, Monday is my refresh day. Like make it
yeah,
make it non-negotiable. And I do think it really does help. Burnout is real in the
true.
entrepreneur world, so do what
And
you can to.
in the type of business that you are in, I don't think you really have your Saturdays or Sundays off as well, because that's when a lot of
A lot of people
work.
call and they're like,
Yeah,
"Hey, now we're thinking about it,"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I can understand.
and we are to the point now, like we are blessed, so we have a team in place for things like
Yeah,
that. Like our office is open on Saturday, and most of the time, Dustin and I are not having to get involved. Um, but starting out, it was just him, myself, and one other person. Like
yeah.
in the
I can
beginning,
imagine.
you have to have that grit. You have to be willing to devote a lot of your life to building it to a point where you can kind of release little pieces of it at a time. And then you get to be the umbrella instead of, like the person who's holding everything up.
True.
Um,
True.
so,
That makes a lot of sense. So thanks a lot again for answering that. Like, then can I get a question that we should ask the next case?
oh,
It can be anything.
would this next guest will own their own business already?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Um, what is your favorite way to be present in the community?
Okay. That's nice. Even
So
I'll
like
think about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
what is their favorite way to be present in the community? And if they're not, they should be doing so.
So true. Well, this is we have this question, so thanks a lot for that. I'll definitely ask the guest and we'll share what they said. So again, Haley, like thanks a lot for doing this. It was
Yeah.
really lovely chatting and getting to know more about you, your business, your processes, your ideologies, everything. So it was amazing. I will take away your grocery shopping from Monday as, let's say, one of the highlights of this, because the passion that you had in that answer really said something. So that was amazing. But then a lot of lessons that people can learn, especially about the processes, especially about the culture, the grind, the grit is like really something that a lot of viewers that will have a watch will be able to get. So again, thanks a lot for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
For sure. Okay, so I